Okay, so let's move right into our next panel, a fireside chat, a conversation with Divya Gokulnath and Vani Kola. So Divya, our next guest, had her life plans subverted at 21. She was on her way to the US when she took a BYJU'S class. And then from there, it's been history. Sold out stadiums to becoming the co-founder of BYJU'S, Divya Gokulnath has had a phenomenal journey. Interviewing Divya will be Vani Kola, a VC and pioneer who has also unapologetically shattered glass ceilings. Please join me in welcoming Divya and Vani.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Doing good? So there's a lot about Divya that most people don't know, but we'll get to that. I hope I get to that. And Divya, is that pressure enough?
You know, I was about to say that, tell everybody, let them in on a secret that Vani's promised me that if I answer the questions well, she'll invest in us.
You know, this is the problem with founders. They don't take our money that we can afford, Series A, maybe Series B. They rejected us. And now, you know, we have no money. I mean, we are poor investors. So, but GSV is an investor, so, right? But, you know, the session is all eyes on India. And boy, are there eyes on EdTech right now. Why is that? You know, there is like, EdTech can do nothing right, it feels like. Why is that?
So, and before I answer her question, I do want to say that we are strong believers that education is for all. So like that, I'm also a strong believer that conversations are for all. So Garima here with me today is here to ensure that everybody understands and appreciates the beauty and the potential of what education can do from India, create something which is phenomenal, create something which is in line with the vision of the country and something for the world. So it's inclusive. I like education should be, and that's how conversation should be too. So Garima is here today to kind of ensure that everybody, really everybody, is part of this conversation. So you asked me why are all eyes on?
Yeah, why is such a focus light on, you think, on EdTech today?
It's probably because EdTech was one of those few segments which saw unprecedented growth during the pandemic. It was literally like there was, it was not just a spotlight, it was like a floodlight on EdTech. Today we have close to 10,000 EdTech startups in the country. So what this did is that a lot of companies were probably formed to solve for that boom. But then again, right, to sustain in the long run, you never create anything in reaction to a boom or a bust. You create something, you know, maybe for the new normal, but something that is for a longer term. So today, all eyes is, and I just mentioned that it can also be a very good thing. It could also come with a pinch of being bad. But I'm hopeful that this is an opportunity for EdTech to actually showcase the goodness it can offer, while there is also the sensitivity that's associated with education, how a small mistake can catapult into a perceivably bigger one, because it's education after all. It's not just close to our mind, it's also close to our heart.
Do you think, you know, as human beings, the fear of unknown is always there and has existed as long as we have existed. So when we talk about EdTech, we are talking about a sector where the pedagogy and the framework of learning hasn't changed a lot. So it kind of gets really up close. It's a different thing to buy your phone online or something like that. So screen time for my children, are they really learning the right things? You know, what will their future be? So there's a lot of maybe fears, right, around how technology can become intrusive. And of course, that could be a factor that we can use for positive, or we can worry about where is this generation going to go, right? So what can be the positive force of innovation and technology, and how do we measure its outcomes, and how do we ensure that not just that we address the fears, but fear is based on some element of truth also, right? So how do we allow for conversations about that? Because that may be where this tug of war is also happening.
No, it's very true. So if you look at technology, whatever you say of technology, the opposite is also true. So while technology can enable and empower, it is good as long as technology, you control technology and technology doesn't control you, right? So anything in moderation is good. Anything which can ensure that you are getting the, benefiting positively from it is good. And there is so much talk, especially now with the widespread awareness of ChatGPT, Bard, and all of those kind of technologies. And we had this, right? Time and again, we've been speaking about VR, we've been speaking about augmented reality, data sciences, time and again. But look at what it has done to education. For the first time, and they always say that there are decades when nothing happened, and then there are weeks when decades happen. That's what technology did to education, and it was, I would say, propelled further because during the pandemic, every stakeholder had gone online. The one challenge that edtech companies were battling with before the pandemic was awareness, which got resolved during the pandemic. But it also gave rise to a huge boom of usage, and that, if you ask me, has led us to this whole new future of learning, where every stakeholder is almost accepting the fact that online learning is a part of mainstream learning. Not that it's exclusive. You can never say that the best of learning is online, which is why I always say anything in moderation is good and everything blended is good. So like post the pandemic, everything has changed. The way we work, the way we live, the way we travel, the way we teach, the way we learn, the way we live. Everything has changed, and learning has also changed along the way. It's become hybrid. So just to give you an example, what is the most successful business that is running today for us is the hybrid business, where we are able to have students decide when they want to come clear their doubts and when they can stay at home and learn on their own. Students want that choice. This is the evolving need of the student. Now, how can you enable them with that technology, and how can you empower them so that they are becoming a better learner? So for me, it's all about technology solving for the right need, solving for scale, solving for personalization, solving for interactivity. And then, so it should always be ed first, right? And tech around it. Not tech first and then ed around it, maybe.
Divya, I was reflecting yesterday. There was a conversation about women in education, and someone said we have a lot of women in education. And for a moment, I was taken aback because, my world from a young age started with wanting to be an engineer, and why should you as a woman become an engineer? But of course, if you said you wanted to be a teacher, you weren't necessarily that discouraged. And, started with someone saying 75% of women are teachers, or whatever, 75% of teachers are women. So we have a lot of women in education. And it just got me thinking, but then who are the innovators and leaders, and not so much about embracing equity and needing more women from what is morally right. Let's just set that aside completely. Why do we need more women in innovation, especially in education?
It's a very pertinent question, because even when I think about it, last 18 months, we created 20,000 teaching jobs. Women, teaching from home to the world. While I think the school statistic for the 100 lakh schools that we have is more 50-50 in terms of men and women, after school teaching is actually skewed towards women. So it is a pertinent question to understand that if the ground, that is the main stakeholder, teachers, who are empowering the students are women predominantly, why isn't it then that at leadership we have that representation? But it's true of every segment. But it should be actually true for education, Because if on the ground you're having more women who are solving, this whole ambition that we have for education to create something big from India, to create something highly impactful from India, then there should be that representation on top. But unfortunately, I feel like in every segment, the drop just keeps happening. And especially for women around my age, I've seen that it's even more difficult to give it their all, to give it their best, because you are having the responsibilities of not just taking charge, but also taking care. And both are equally important. So when will this resolve? This will resolve when we come to a situation when people accept that men cannot just take charge but also take care, and women cannot just take care but also take charge. It's a big mindset shift that should happen, and not just from organizations, but it starts at home. It starts one step at a time, and enough and more, and we could get into an endless 2-hour debate about empowerment and everything, but the hard reality is that we are not pulling enough women up, and the surround sound to pull her up is everywhere, from home to friends to parents to husband to everybody, men and women around her to pull her up. And unfortunately, that's not happening enough, but that's how it should be. And it's sad that there are very few people at top who are, because tech and anything that you want to solve at scale, you need a multi-dimensional approach to problem solving and solution creation. If you don't have enough representation of that, how do you make the change in the right direction?
So taking a very different question, there is a lot of momentum and energy, enthusiasm. We are hosting G20 this year in India, and the 2047, which is of course, 25 years away or something like that, but that India can be a leading 30, maybe 40 trillion economy. And if you talk about a country multiplying 10 times, that happens rarely in history, right? Maybe every 500 years or whatever. So it's not such a easy thing to achieve, right? But that's going to require creating education and equity for 1 billion people, men or women or otherwise, right? Urban or rural or whatever, right? And it's simply not possible without technology as a driver from affordability and accessibility, right? Today we are, 3.5 trillion economy. So if you're going to 10x your country, how do you drop prices? We have seen that in payments. We have seen that in other sectors. When you bring affordability, when you bring down costs, accessibility, increases. So what is it that you think we can do collectively in making that dramatic access and affordability happen for over 1 billion people?
Companies that have scaled well and those that have created a great product can actually do it very easily, right? Because we know what we need to do to solve at scale. We need to give the same high quality education to children who need it the most, so that they can enable themselves, because we know that in our country, education is the most important way to make it big in life. So dropping prices could be one thing. The other thing is to have a very clear, and I call it a double bottom line approach, where you say, I will do well, but I will also do good. Where you give it absolutely, because those who need it the most.
You have shareholders, no? I mean, we are not one, we would agree with that if you made us shareholders. But
that is true.
I don't know about other shareholders, some of them are sitting here. So. If you said, I'm going to take all my profits, well, and I'm going to give it to...
It's right.
It's going to work.
One of my board members is here. So this is me indirectly taking approval from her. So, I'm saying we can do both, Vani. I'm saying that we can do well and do good. And we've seen that because once you create, a very strong business model where you know how you can monetize and from a certain segment, India has so many students who are from families who could pay, but it can also empower students from families who could not afford it by giving it absolutely for free. And if you create something that can do it at scale, and I tell you this with so much confidence because I've seen this on the ground. Because over the last 18 months, 5.5 million students are learning for absolutely free. And it's not impacting our do well part of our business at all. In fact, if you ask me, it's helping us do that better because all of us are much more mission driven. The team understands that what they're doing and what they're creating is not just helping those who can afford it, but also helping those who cannot. And there is no satisfaction greater than that. And being in education, it's already a segment which is very close to everybody. But, and in this way where you can solve the trilemma of cost, quality, and scale, which is what we did, and maybe just, I'll spend 30 seconds more. We partnered with 175 NGOs across the country, including Cry Foundation, Akshaya Patra. They identified the students. And for all the students identified, and we also worked with state governments. So we have the Andhra Pradesh government, we have the Odisha government who are working with us. And then we gave the same product, the very same product which we give to our paid students for absolutely free to the students from the deepest parts of the country. So the only change we had to do is we also had to create that product in 12 regional languages. So it's me teaching in Bengali, Odia, Gujarati, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil. It's possible. I am one of the teachers on the app, and I have satisfaction that I'm teaching a child in the remotest part of, say, Kashmir, but I'm also teaching a child in Bangalore who can learn from me. So it is possible, and that's what technology can do. It can help you shatter the physical divide. People talk about the digital divide, but technology can help you shatter the barriers of the physical divide.
So, Divya, you're in a place of the top 1% from whatever measure you look at it, right? As a woman, as a leader of a very large company, and pioneer in EdTech. So from many, many angles, you are the top 1%, right? So what is it and how do you measure your personal impact and what is the mission that you are on? Because you are a woman on the move. You are just working, I don't know how many hours, 100 hours a week. I see you doing so much. So what is the mission? What is driving you?
So for me, I feel we've been building something. I started in 2007 at the age of 21, that as a young teacher with hope in her eyes and big dreams in front of her. Say 16, 17 years later, I feel I'm the same girl with a lot more maturity, but with the same hope in her eyes and dream before her to make it bigger, better. So for me, the mission is that if today you say I'm in the top 1%, I want to be in the top, I want that to be 10%. I want many, many more such people who can be part of this ecosystem. And that for me is a small measure of success if we could empower, enable, and inspire. It's very simply said in one sentence, but the work that goes behind it is so much. I think I've been 2 heads down and hearts in. I think it's time for me to be heads up and hearts out, right? And speak up a lot more and ask many more people to just give it their best. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. Right? To say that it's easy is incorrect, but to say that it's impossible is also wrong. So, so my mission is very simple. It is to have so many more Divyas, not just in India, but across the world, to have a future of education which is possible. We have 1.5 billion school-going children. Why can't we have 1.5 billion unique learning paths? When we can have our choice of color and choice of, say, pencils, why can't we have our choice of learning? That's the question I want every student to be able to have an answer to. And when can we move towards a world where no matter which part of the world you're from, which economic strata you come down, like food, clothing, shelter, education. That should be how the priority is for education.
Mission of universal education, if we could all get behind that, I think we would make the world a great place. Although she said she wants to be in the 10%, not top 1%, and she wants many more Divyas, but Divya herself is very unique, so that's not possible just to be, focused on her. She's a great singer, a much loved, trained singer, and I could get her to sing here if we had more time. But, and a much loved teacher, a wonderful mother, great writer, and of course, a business leader. So we all are so unique in our own way, and sometimes in our professional setting, much of the color about who we are, what we are, doesn't always come out and come through. So I want to share a little bit about Divya, but we'll close with one last question. It's something, again, I think about a lot. I have 2 daughters, as you know. So then, our house has 5 women, the 2 dogs, me, the 2 girls. So our conversations are centered very differently. You have 3 boys, right? BYJU and your 2 sons, your 2 young sons. So what happens in your home around role of women? What do you talk about? We'll close with that personal question.
Okay, I knew she's going to give me one difficult question. Okay, I knew. And she always gives me a bouncer in the end. Okay, so I have 2 kids. BYJU can take care of himself. Okay, and when you said 3 kids, I thought you would say the app was the 3rd one.
No, I was including BYJU in that.
That's gender neutral. And by the way, a lot of people ask me, I have a 9-year-old boy and a 2-year-old boy, and there is an age gap. And I tell them, my app was launched in between. It's the biggest baby. It's the elephant in the room. It takes all my time. And that's true. So I think it's because there are so many men, there is much more diversity, because all the chores that typically maybe your daughters would do, I get the boys to do that. So from ensuring that guests are properly taken care of to that their clothes are folded and kept in their place, I'm a strong believer that both boys and girls need to do it. Trying to imbibe that from an early age, because I was brought up not as a boy or a girl, but as a child. A lot of people ask me what your biggest challenge was as you grew up. I said, look at me as an example of what would happen if you bring up somebody without that myopic lens of gender.
Awesome, Divya. Thanks for doing this session.
Thank you so much.
Divya, thank you so much. I think that ended it really well to bring someone up as a child and not as a boy or a girl. That was a great point. Thank you, Divya.